Welcome to day one of How to Be Cuban American in 30 Days. Today we talk with Marta Darby from mybigfatcubanfamily.com. Her blog is all about food and family and how to be Cuban American in California. Check it out. I'm also trying to help Cuban Americans that don't live in Florida. Like I live in DC, so
okay.
It's not as easy to, I can go visit my family in South Florida, but it's not that easy. So we're doing something fun, how to be Cuban American in 30 days. I mean, it's
That's fabulous. And you can learn in 30 days. I know you can.
It's just a fun thing, take a break from some of the serious topics like, cemeteries and all those kind of things. So, your blog is so fun and so amazing. So we wanted to, reach out and, build some bridges. So you're going to be our day one.
Okay, here I am.
I wanted to start with something fun, like, I don't know, top barbers in Cuba 1901. Like, that's not as fun as talking about food and family and blogs and stuff like that. So.
Well, I'll tell you, I started blogging 14 years ago. And at that time, my kids are all grown. I have 4 kids, but I was homeschooling them. So I was homeschooling, and we were here, and I live in a little bedroom community called Mission Viejo, and that's how you say it, Mission Viejo, not Misión Viejo, no. We're between LA and San Diego.
Wow.
Okay, so that's where we live in a little, our little suburbs, and I'm homeschooling my kids, but at the same time, my mom, who was still alive at that time, she stayed with us every weekend. So I cooked Cuban, and I cooked Cuban because I crave it. And then I wanted, let me tell you what I wanted. Pastelito de guayaba. Okay, like you do. And the nearest Porto's bakery at that time was in Glendale, which is a 2-hour drive if you don't have any traffic, which you always have traffic in LA. So I started to deconstruct, and I said, hey, if you just take some guava and some, a pre-made dough, I bet we could do this. So I tried it, and it was, magic. And I wrote about it, and that put me on the map. People were like, what? What is this? This is the stuff that, who didn't think about this before to be able to do this at home? Because the way that we connect as Cubans is through our food and through our music. And of course, through our culture. We have our Cuban isms, but even them, from here to Miami is a long way. I'm in Southern California, and you're in DC, so you know this. So it's bringing a little piece of our Cubanity, my word, to the el exilio del exilio, where people are in the furthermost parts of the country and other parts of the world. If they can get guava and puff pastry, they can make pastelitos. So I found a way to connect that way with people, and it's just been magical. So that's just a little anecdote about what's happened in the last 14 years.
So, I mean, California's, has a lot of Spanish speakers. So what's it like to be Cuban? I'm also from Arizona. So, it's a border state with Mexico. I love Mexico. I love Mexican people. I love the Mexican food. But every little, every country has its own different flavor. So.
When we first moved here to California when I was 9, and they're cheering for me, my family in the background. We moved here to California when I was 9, and I started school, and all of my classmates, with a small percentage, little Catholic school, were Mexican, and we didn't know each other at all. They didn't know what a Cuban was, and I didn't know Mexico truly. I mean, it was just ignorance. I was 9. Well, we started trying to compare food, and we couldn't find a place to meet. because then I had to start, oh no, Cuban food is, I learned the word savory. Our food is savory. We use garlic and onions and peppers as the beginning of our sofrito, and they start right in there with the chile. And yeah, that's not my way. That's not my way. Yeah, so, but anyway, like you, I love the Mexican people and Mexican food. But that's one of the big differences. They didn't understand, a lot of people didn't know where Cuba was. And I don't know exactly where Zimbabwe is, so I'm gonna just give them a pass on it.
Right.
You don't know about Cuba, you don't know where it is and the politics and all of that. But being Cuban is to be political too, so I'm just gonna leave that there. So living in California and being Cuban, we would find each other. You would see somebody, at whatever, Disneyland or at a grocery store, and you'd listen, you'd follow them around, listen to the accent, then you'd say, "You're Cuban." I know it sounds nutty, but it's not like in Miami where everybody's Cuban.
Right.
So yeah, we would search each other out. And ironically, when I was in like junior high age, 7th, 8th grade, all of my friends were recently arrived from Cuba. So my closest group of friends were all Cubans. So you know how you do when you're in school, you have 8 or 9 great friends and they're all Cuban. So yeah, it was lovely growing up here in California, but it was always fun to go back to Miami and go, oh, this is what we missed by moving across the country. I don't know if that even makes sense.
Well, California is beautiful too. So, even in my family, my grandmother came over in the 50s, and then you have family that came in the 60s, and then family that came in the 80s. Yeah. So even there's some different kind of Cuban.
Yeah.
A Cuban in 1951 is different from a Cuban in 1984. So
oh yes. So there was a lot of disconnect there. My family came here to the U.S. in 1961, and we moved to Florida. We were just going to stay until the thing blew over. Yeah, so we're still waiting. So we lived there for about 3 years, and then my sisters moved across the country to get married. Their husbands came out from Panama and ended up in California. So my dad said, we're keeping this family together no matter what. So we all moved, obviously, to the West Coast. So that's how we ended up all the way over here. But it was, we knew friends of friends, and it was a very small community. And then we found Porto's Bakery. They existed. And we would make the pilgrimage, whatever, because the food of our people,
Right.
And we would search out Cuban restaurants. And, I think we still do that wherever I go to a new town. Do you do this? You go to a new town and
see the flag, or you see something, it's just, that's Cuban over there. So
yeah. So there was something that we really want to connect with those roots. And, besides the music, it's the food.
Yes.
Yeah. So
we talked about the music and the food, and then I also want to talk about speaking Spanish, because there's a lot of Cuban Americans that might be 3rd, 4th generation that either the grandparents didn't want to speak Spanish, or there for some other reason, and there's some Cuban Americans that don't speak Spanish, and I'm trying to encourage them to. It's part of it's the food, it's the music, and you have to
language. The shared language. I have 4 kids, all born here, and my husband's American, and my oldest is the only one who speaks Spanish fluently. But I was going through the divorce at the time, and we were living with my parents. So my parents were always had us speak English outside. We are assimilating. When you're outside the house, you speak English. When you come home, you speak Spanish, because you got to keep your language,
Wow.
So we did. So my kids understand, the other 3 understand, but they're not as fluent as my firstborn. Her name's Amy. So now she's speaking Spanish to her 4-year-old. So we're trying, man. We're trying.
Going down the generation. So
yeah. So And again, there's that thing, the thing that attracts people to my blog, and I tell stories just about my life, and then I'm cooking food and I think, oh, I want to try this, and I cheat and use a crock pot when you're not supposed to, just I modernize it, whatever, Cuban food. I don't care how you get there, but the taste has to be right. Am I right? So, anyway, so I doing all this, and my kids are paying attention. They're paying attention. They can all cook Cuban and they can hold their own. They may not be able to speak fluently, but they are doing it. And also I have so many young people write to me. So young women write to me and they say, my abuela was the one who cooked in the family, and she's just cooked by ear. There wasn't a cookbook around. And then she passed away and no one asked her how she made the frijoles, So I have created the recipes so that they're accessible to that generation. So, I'll say, just try it, and they do. And then we get back to, they taste right. So it tastes just like I remember. Like, yes, that's the goal. That really is the goal. So I probably said too much in answer to your question.
No, that was good. No, food is so important. And there, for the 30 days, I want food to be such a, an important part of being Cuban, because it's delicious. It's part of the family, and it goes back generations. And
exactly.
And Cuban food is very distinct,
Right.
And I'm always looking for Cuban restaurants. And when I go to Miami, I eat too much. But speaking of Miami, like, what's it like when you go to South Florida? Is it kind of like, it's a lot of Cuban? There's a lot of Cubanness.
Yes. So here's the funnest thing in the whole wide world for me. When I go to South Florida, I walk into a store, a Sedano's, and they speak Spanish to me right off the bat. And I'm like, yes, thank you for knowing me. They just assume everyone's Cuban, which I think is hilarious. I was just there a year ago in December, and I was a judge for the Croqueta Palooza. That's a thing. You didn't know this was a thing. Croqueta Palooza. My friend, the Burger Beast, burgerbeast.com, has a site, and he sponsors the thing, and he gets different people to sponsor, and there's music and dancing, and all these restaurants, they put in their croquetas. So I got to taste 19 different, yeah.
That's the dream.
It's like the fantasy is the word you're looking for here.
It's the fantasy.
So anyway, so that was really fantastic. So I was there in South Florida, and I was also hosted by, there's these two guys who have a podcast called Pero Let Me Tell You.
Yes, they're amazing.
Florida. And so they reached out to me and said, you've got to come and you've got to be at Croqueta Palooza, and Burger Beast wants you to be. So, and I've never been hosted so well. Of course, Cuban hospitality is like no other.
Yes.
So I was treated, like the Cuban princess that I am. And and it was just so much fun to be, but it is shocking, but it's so much fun to be in South Florida. And, they have an accent. They have an accent. I think that they're starting to catch on.
Right.
And I know that I sound like a Valley girl. Hello, I was, raised in Southern California. What can you do? But it was kind of like a strange culture shock. Like, it wasn't, the Cubans here where I am hold on to a lot of classical Cuban old school traditions. And I feel like in Miami, they've evolved, which is good and right. But it's no igual. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. So I was delighted to find all these young Cuban chefs that I did get to meet, and they are taking Cuban food and kind of adding their spin on it, so they're making burgers, the toston burger, with a toston instead of bread. Please.
Wow, please. That sounds delicious.
Yes, It's crazy awesome. So I was so impressed and amazed that they've taken our food and saying, oh, we can do fun things with this instead of the usual. I still cook very just traditional, you know, I'm trying to think, traditional Cuban food. Arroz con pollo, my favorite. You know, black beans, white rice with everything. Plantains, tostones, so that sort of thing. Anyway.
I like this potaje that has calabaza. Have you had?
Oh.
It's like my aunt would make it. It just had like beans and pumpkin and some pork in there, and it was just so delicious. And she didn't really want to give me her recipe, so.
So that you don't have it, and it's probably something from the region where she grew up,
Right?
or, you know, that sort of thing. Because that was my mom too. She goes, well, my grandmother used to. My grandmother had a wooden, what do you call it, a wood stove, wood burning coal stove.
Yep.
And she would make a flan in this thing every day, a perfect flan. So it's like, yeah, you guys are on another level. I'm
Flans are
trying to hold my own, you know?
a flan, making a good flan, like that's, you either
It's hard
do it.
enough when you have all the ingredients in the pan. She made it in a coffee can in a wood stove. And yeah, it's just phenomenal, the stories from my mom used to tell me and my dad. But again, like the thing that you're, you know, that family recipe with the pumpkin, and that's probably something from their region. There's probably somebody that knows, oh yes, we have that too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then I just want to talk, you know, there's Cubans in New Jersey too, and they have another different kind of, you know, way about them. So.
You know what? I don't travel to that part of the coast very much, but I just recently we did a thing where we were passing cafecito. We did one of those things, we have music, and I'm passing to the guy here and, you know, passing it from, there's someone in Maryland, close to you probably, El Sapo Social. And I reached out to them because they were in your area, and there was another guy in New Jersey. Oh, forgive me, I don't have his name on the tip of my tongue, but we got food trucks from all over, and one gal's in Hawaii with a little, you know, coffee cart, and isn't that amazing? So we did a little, there was about a dozen of us, and we were just passing the cafecito from one place to another, and because we're everywhere doing everything.
Like virtually?
Yes. So I would take my cup and then pass it here, and the next person would pick it up and with their cup and drink and salute and on to the next thing. Yeah, it's on my Instagram feed if you go there.
Okay, I'm gonna
Cuban family.
Yes, I love that kind of stuff. So,
thank you.
Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but what would be your recommendation for people that don't live in a big area with lots of Cubans? So, you know, there's some Cubans in Texas. I have a cousin in Atlanta. Like, what can we do? What kind of recommendations would you give for them? Your blog, of course.
Okay, so here's the thing. Right now, we can stay connected to anyone, anywhere, all over the world, correct?
Right.
So come find me on my blog, because I do talk about what it is to be Cuban, and my stories are different from everybody else's. And I also I've collected a lot of stories, and I call them Cuando Salí de Cuba. So I had people tell me, like, what was your family's story? They're the same, but very different. So we had to, you know, with my family, they imprisoned us overnight. My dad had disappeared. He had already left the country before we could. So they're all fraught with this drama, and it's just incredible. But it's the same story. We had to leave. We had to leave everything. We came to this country that received us with open arms, and now our family has thrived here. So I would recommend, like, get online, and if you type in Cuban food, I think I'm one of the first ones that comes up on your Google search. But yes, there's a way to stay connected, and I think with Instagram and, you know, even Twitter gets crazy, but, you know, even on Facebook, and there are different Cuban blogs which have different personalities.
Right.
Mine is all about home and family and recipes and my own silly stories. you know.
No, that's amazing. So thank you so much. I think that was just about all of my questions that I had. So I like to ask people this. So in your picadillo, are there pasas or no pasas?
Okay, all right, that's it. Bring it. Let me get the gloves. Here's the thing. You must have the raisins and you must have the olives when you're making it. Pick them out if you want to afterwards, but you need them while you're making it for the sweet and salty flavor. Flavor is everything. I'm just going to say that. I'm not going to say, oh, it's only this and I don't like that. You don't like it, you pick it out, but you need it for the flavor. Got it? Okay, that's on, you know, I have a lot, I could go on a long time about this. But anyway, those are the rules. If you need it for the flavor, you can pick it out later. You don't have to eat all of it. Yeah? Was that political, like diplomatic enough?
Oh, I love raisins and olives. So but I know
That's
people.
what it should be. Yeah. Okay.
People get opinionated, and I'm like.
Yeah, that is. That's right up there with tostones or maduros. Right? It depends on what you're eating. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And real quick again, I didn't record at the beginning, but so your family is from where in Cuba?
Oh, my family is from Havana.
Okay.
My dad was from, oh my goodness, se me fue en este momento. Where's the tobacco from? Where's the tobacco from?
Yeah. Like Santiago de Cuba over on that side, or?
No, the other side. The other side.
Pinar del Rio?
Pinar del Rio, thank you. It's right here. I just couldn't access it. Pinar del Rio. My mom was from Puerto Padre. So, and like I said, my aunts were able to get her her marriage certificate in Havana, and so that's where my family. But I was born in Havana, and we grew up there until we had to leave in early 1961, Valentine's Day.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's I have chocolate and remembrance.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, there's, for Cubans, there's a lot of pain in our stories, and we have, it split my family, split my family up. So I just try and stay, focused on the positivity and celebrate, you're alive.
Oh, yeah.
So
our family is here. We're still all together. My parents kept us together. And then, I've raised my family here. And so there's a lot of redemption in it by coming to the U.S. But for many people, for many Cubans, ask them the date that they came. They know the date exactly. Right. And I've done that before, and it's just hundreds and hundreds of people. They know exactly how they, we went to Spain and we went to Panama, but the day they left Cuba. So,
yeah, anyway. So many amazing stories. I love the storytelling parts. That's why I like having the podcast. And
I'm sure this is beautiful. Yes. So, what is the best way to be Cuban American in 30 days? How are you gonna? I think it can be done, but you're just talking to people and.
Yeah, so it's day one. So I have someone that's working that does kind of a specialty in Cuban music, because I only know like Benny More, like what my grandmother told me. Like
right.
She didn't like. There's Celia Cruz. There's certain ones she liked and she didn't like.
Yeah.
And then Gloria Estefan and Pitbull. So there's different generations, and there's
right. Yes. And so you have someone who knows about music. That's what I'm saying. It's food and it's music and it's stories. And the stories, even if you don't have 100% of the story, keep telling the story,
Yes.
Because, that generation is leaving us.
Yeah, so I tell people to start with their oral stories. So my grandmother's level have all passed away. So now it's just the next level. So
parents, yeah.
I've written those down. I recorded just, because once a few people forget, then those stories are gone.
They're gone. Yes. So I used to tape my mom all the time. As she was getting older, I'd say, just talk to me about something. And I heard her on the phone one day talking to my uncle. Now, Grant, she was in her 90s at the time, and so was he. They both lived into hundreds. And I said, what were you just explaining to him? So I have that on tape. It's on Google, on YouTube, excuse me. And it's called Cuco y Yayo. So Cuco y Yayo. She was explaining how the search engines worked. Cuco, C-U-C-O, is Google. Y Yayo was Yahoo. So she was explaining to my uncles, son como unos enanitos que van a buscar la información. So it's a classic. I want you to be sure to find it on YouTube, because that's one of my favorite things, is seeing my mom still telling stories on the internet. So
I love that. So if you ever come to Washington, D.C., let me know.
I do come to Washington, D.C. My son and his wife lived in Alexandria for lots of years. And they just moved back a couple of years ago to be with me. I had cancer, and I'm well now. But my family, all my kids came, they came back home, so they're nearby. But we love Washington, D.C. We love going there. So are you in D.C.? Are you outside?
I'm downtown. I live downtown, D.C.
You live downtown.
Yeah.
Look at you. Okay, I'll knock on your door.
Yeah, so, we'll go to some Cuban restaurants or something.
Anyway.
And if you ever think of anyone that needs, to connect to their roots, like through old parish records, think of us, because we are.
I love that so much. I do. When you reached out, and I thought, what an amazing thing that you're doing, because yes, everything ends in 1960. Yep. It does, or at least our access to it ends in 1960. They're still keeping records, but they're in old boxes in a musty basement somewhere. So I love what you're doing. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So thank you.
Thank you. No, we're trying to preserve those stories anywhere we can, and we're trying to preserve some cemetery records as well. So, yeah. But the parishes are the number one, births, marriages, and deaths. So.
Yes. My mom's generation, actually would have been my grandmother, her mom. So they would, my cousin was born on May the 19th. Uh-huh. Well, she just told her she was born on May 20th, because that's the day of independence, She didn't know until she was an adult and had to get real records. And she says, that was never my birthday. And I said, oh, I was about 10 when I found out. My birthday's on May 21st, and I thought it was May 20th. All those, they just made stuff up because they could. So
you get two birthdays.
Yes. I still celebrate it. Yeah, never mind. That's not important right now. Anyway, so I love what you're doing. Thank you so much for reaching out to me. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
You'll be number one. We're going to send people to go, check out your blog. So
yay.
It's delicious.
Greatly.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
All right. My pleasure.
Hope to see you soon. Gracias.
Bye.
Bye.